So, and this is interesting because man would say, well, if you keep looking at the information and stuff, it goes all the way back to the gods.
Right. What gods?
And that's the question.
Right.
That's the question. What gods?
What gods?
In the big three, we're in this construct or idea that, oh, there's only one God.
God, right.
You know, and then every other God, whether it's made out of wood, out of stone, we call it idol or idolatry.
Right.
They're false gods.
Right.
However, we see that in certain scriptures and texts, they talk about the laws were given by God.
Right.
And the thing is, it's like, I personally believe there's only one source of everything.
Right.
Which I wouldn't necessarily call God.
Okay.
And this is just me. I'm not saying it for you. I'm not speaking for you. Just because that word God has been so distorted over the centuries or whatever the case may be. But I use it in the sake of conversation once we make a foundation of what we're talking about.
Right.
So from that source comes many others.
Right.
Or lights or beams of lights.
Right.
Or energies or matter. And we can call those, from my perspective, gods.
Right.
Right.
Yeah, facts.
But they're still extensions of that one.
Right.
So when we talk about certain things that we read in certain texts, and when you get into, for example, I haven't read it in its entirety, but like the Bhagavad Gita, the Mahabharata, they talk about these beings or entities that were physical, that flew in vehicles, Vermanas, and so on and so forth, and they had different wars on this planet. And when you get into the Bible, it talks about Elohim, right? Which, if you literally translate that word, it's God's,
right?
And now somebody's gonna say, well, I don't agree. I don't agree with that. You're taking things out of context. It depends on the context you're using.
Right.
In the beginning, it says Elohim created, and I know created is a singular.
Right.
For me, that's the source.
Right.
But in this instance of creation, or in a beginning or beginning, it's talking about Elohim created.
Right.
Right. So it's a plurality unit creating.
Exactly.
So as you continue reading, it talks about the creation of, and I don't really get into the understandings that I've come upon, but the heavens and the earth,
animals,
lights, absence of sun,
right?
At least that's what we believe,
right?
Then stars, sun, moon, ocean animals, birds, and then we have animals, and then we have man,
right?
But what does it say about man? It said, "Let us create man in our image and our likeness."
We're gonna go into
male and
too.
female.
Yeah.
So, and then it's a whole nother conversation when we get into Genesis chapter 2.
Right.
And it talks about Yahweh Elohim. Right. So this is gonna be it's gonna be a heavy conversation when we talk about God, or in this case Elohim.
Yeah, it's gonna be. It's really gonna be, especially because of the understanding that we've gotten.
Right.
So it's and we may not shed light on that on this this podcast today, but we will get into it, and that's gonna be like, then you thinking people think it really be crazy,
right?
That's what it's gonna be.
And
so be it. So be it. So I want to go back to the morality thing, and
Malak said it's an imbalance, talking about the bird.
It's an imbalance?
An imbalance.
Okay. So let's talk about the morality that, like I say, sometimes I don't believe in certain things, right? So who set these standards? And to the point is going to be, okay, we all have to come to an agreement. Okay, this is what it is.
Mm-hmm.
So like right now, a lot of people are talking about the young lady that went over to Dubai.
I know nothing about that.
Right. So let me inform you. She went over to Dubai for a vacation, and she rented a car or whatever, and she got into it with one of the guys that was there renting the car, and she raised her voice at the man. Oh no, she's in jail now.
Right.
She can't go travel. She can't do anything. She's in jail.
Okay.
Revoked it.
Okay.
But over here in the United States, oh, you could do that.
Okay.
You know, you can cut somebody out,
Right.
fuss them out, man or woman, child or whatever. But over there is that's a no.
Okay.
So my thing is, okay, well, who's really setting these morality points on who agreed to that? But
Right.
they agreed for their, like you
Society,
say, for
right.
their society and their foundational
Right.
understanding of what they got.
Which I want to say is more on the Islamic side.
Exactly.
So, you know, that's very much patrilineal. The man is the head of the household.
Right.
You know, the woman is his wife. On you know, I don't want to say property, but it's leaning towards that line as far as she's a value commodity. I'm going to go on the terms of value commodity in the family.
Right.
So without going into like she's like my phone.
Right.
But so they very much covered a lot of the old ways or the more ancient patrilineal way of dictating society and life.
Right.
So yeah, you're not gonna. A woman is. I'm sorry to say, women here in America, in Dubai, in the Middle East, in the Levant region, it's not gonna be much women raising their voices at men.
Yeah. Right. So that's what I'm talking about. Okay, this morality stuff. But that's probably another show or podcast. But let's get into you are gods.
Okay.
Let's see what we can, what we can come up with. What's why we say you are gods.
Okay. Let's talk about why you say we are
fine.
God.
Great. Oh, we could just go to the first chapter in Genesis if we just want to start with the book, which is Genesis chapter 1.
Okay.
It says, "Let us make man in our own image
Okay.
and our likeness." And if you look up those words, image and likeness,
Let's get it. Let's get it.
Go ahead, get that, brother.
And I'm not trying. I'm not trying to teach
A lesson.
a Hebrew lesson. I leave that for the mores and the teachers that's having Shabbat right now. All praises to those who are keeping those ways and those laws,
Right. Well, what I'm
those
doing,
traditions, I should say.
right? What I'm doing, I'm just giving you what I gotten out of the book, and then coming from other books also
Okay.
outside of the Bible.
All right.
And I said, hold up, they saying it directly
Okay.
in other books, right? But then when I go into, our writings or the writings that we was given in the scriptures, it say the same thing, but it's underlined. It's like you can't get it. You're not, when you first read it, you may not get that.
What do you mean? Get that?
That you are God. You may
Okay.
not get that. Now, when you're talking about like Indian texts and their sacred texts or whatever, they directly tell you that
Okay.
this is what it is. It's like it's presented in a way that say you can't miss it.
Right.
You can't miss this.
Right.
This is what it is. But when you're dealing with the scriptures, it's kind of underlined. It's kind of underneath the stories. or
So
what
it's more
have
of an interpret. You have to interpret it or read
Right.
more into it.
you had to read more into it. You had to, and like you say, you would have to study.
Right.
Study to show yourself approved.
It's very so I've been watching some things with astrotheology and so on and so forth, and it's really a lot of how you were taught to see things,
Right.
versus what did you get when you read it on your own, like as far as verbatim, what do you see?
Right.
And then it's one thing when you read it in English and another thing when you read it in the actual language or the language that we get that is written in, and
Right.
The interpretations or whatever the case may be. So that's just a very interesting thought, because it's a lot of things that I've come across over 10 years ago that's now coming up again.
Right.
And it's like, okay, when it came up 10 years ago, it's like, well, that's not the popular narrative. So I just kind of like overlooked it
Right.
or chucked it to the side, or I don't really chuck things to the side. I'll put it in my little compartment in my brain,
Right.
and
it'll come back.
it'll come back. So it was, excuse me, Genesis chapter 1, verse 25, and it says, "And God, which will be Elohim in the Hebrew, God made the beasts of the earth," and I'm reading from the King James version. God made the beasts of the earth after his kind, and cattle after their kind, and everything that creepeth upon the earth after his kind. And God saw that it was good. And God said, "Let us make man in our image, after our likeness, and let them have dominion over the fish of the sea, and over the fowl of the air, and over the cattle, and over all the earth, and over every creeping thing that creepeth upon the earth."
Right.
And then verse 27, it says, "So God created man in his own image. In the image of God created he him, male and female created he them."
It's interesting.
All right. So God, whoever this man and woman is created in the image of Elohim.
Exactly.
Or God.
Exactly.
And God blessed them, and God said unto them, "Be fruitful and multiply and replenish the earth."
Right.
"And subdue it, and have dominion over the fish of the sea, and over the fowl of the air, and over every living thing that moveth upon the earth." And I'll stop there.
Right.
Oh, wait. Right? It's still more edicts being given out. I'll continue on verse 29. "And God said, Behold, I have given you every herb bearing seed which is upon the face of all the earth, and every tree in which is the fruit of a tree yielding seed. To you it shall be for meat." So it's talking about fruits and vegetables.
Herbs.
"And to every beast of the earth," this is verse 30, "and to every fowl of the air, and to everything that creepeth upon the earth, wherein there is life, I have given every green herb for meat," and it was so. And we'll stop there.
Right.
So
it's real interesting in 27 when it says created he, him, male and female.
Mm-hmm.
So
expound on that.
So you telling me, or what I'm reading, or what I'm seeing, is Elohim is creating feminine and masculine energies.
Right.
I won't say a male and female or these parts that we see to describe certain male and female. I would say that is certain energies of feminine energy and a masculine energy.
Okay.
Upon what it is.
Mm-hmm.
The two combining.
Okay.
Because it has to separate. Well, as we read, as we go into two, it'll say that it separated itself. Or they took what it says, take a rib.
Okay. So I'm gonna be angel's advocate.
Go ahead.
So I'm gonna let you say what you're saying, and I'm just gonna be throwing stuff out there.
Right.
As far as what's the word? Adding different perspective than the general consensus of narrative.
Right.
All right. So I would say, because a lot of people would thinking that this covers the creation of everything, and I'm here to say it's not.
Right.
It's And again, I'm saying this, you can disagree. It's fine. It's a perspective. This is a recreation.
Right.
This is a repopulation.
Right.
After a certain cataclysm that happened.
Right.
So people, as you keep reading the scriptures, it talks about we talk about Noah and the flood. And I'm what's the word? I'm suggesting that there were at least four cataclysms that preceded, maybe three. I'll say three. Three cataclysms that preceded the Noah flood would have been the fourth. So what we're reading here is actually another recreation or reconstitution of the earth after